My name is Selena Marlowe. I don't know if my life will sound extraordinary to you, or just ordinary like countless others, but one thing I know for sure: every life, no matter how simple, is a story worth telling. So today, let me take you through the journey of my life, a journey from childhood to old age, filled with dreams, laughter, tears, lessons, and love. I was born in a small town, where mornings smelled of fresh bread and evenings echoed with children's laughter. As a child, my world was tiny, just my parents, my little wooden toys, the old garden swing, and the boundless sky I used to stare at for hours. I remember running barefoot on the grass, chasing butterflies as if they were jewels escaping from the heavens. Every drop of rain was a miracle, every rainbow a promise. Back then, happiness was so simple. It was in a candy shared with a friend, in a bedtime story my mother whispered, in the hug of my father when he returned from work. I thought childhood would last forever. But time is a thief, and it always moves faster when you're busy laughing. Slowly, my dolls were replaced with books, my bedtime stories with lessons, and my laughter with questions about life. When I became a teenager, the world suddenly looked bigger, brighter, and sometimes scarier. School corridors were no longer just about play, they became places of competition, comparisons, and silent battles. I was shy, but inside me lived a fire. I wanted to be noticed, to be remembered, to do something meaningful. There were days I stood in front of the mirror, wondering who I really was. Am I beautiful? Am I enough? Will I ever make my dreams come true? Teenage years, when friendship feels like eternity, heartbreak feels like the end of the world, and dreams feel as close as the stars you reach for at night. I still remember my first crush. He had the kindest smile, the kind that could melt away every worry. Of course, it ended before it even began. That's the thing about young love, it's sweet, but fragile, like glass that breaks at the smallest touch. But even in heartbreak, I learned something, that love isn't just about being chosen, it's also about learning your worth. My teenage years were full of diaries filled with secrets, exams that felt like wars, and dreams painted in bright colors. I wanted to travel, to explore, to do something that mattered. I didn't know what adulthood held for me, but I couldn't wait to grow up. I was 20 when I first left home for university. The city was loud, fast, and overwhelming. For the first time, I was on my own. Freedom was sweet, no one to scold me for sleeping late, no one to remind me to eat my vegetables. But freedom came with loneliness too. There were nights I cried silently in my dorm room, missing the warm smell of my mother's cooking. Life began teaching me its first real lessons. Bills don't wait for dreams. Friends don't always stay. And not every love is meant to last. I fell in love again during those years, not with a person, but with life itself. I learned how to survive with little money, how to walk miles when buses didn't come, how to wipe my own tears and still smile at the world. I also fell in love with someone, a man whose laughter was like music, who made me believe in forever. For a while, I thought he was the one. We built castles in the air, whispered promises under the stars, planned a life we never lived. Because life has a way of testing us. He left. Not because he was cruel, but because sometimes, people are chapters, not the whole book. Heartbroken, I picked myself up. Because that's what life demands. You don't get to pause, you keep walking. I graduated, got a job, and stepped into the real world. The world where paychecks were small, but responsibilities were huge. Where you worked not just for dreams, but for survival. Adulthood is strange. It doesn't arrive with fireworks or confetti. It creeps in silently in the form of rent receipts, job applications, and the weight of choices. I worked hard, sometimes too hard. There were days when my body was exhausted, but my spirit kept whispering, "Keep going, Selena." I met people from different walks of life, some kind, some selfish, some who taught me lessons, some who left scars. Every person I met added a line to my story. And then, love came again. This time, it was calmer, steadier, not fireworks, but a warm flame. I married a man who wasn't perfect, but he was good to me. Together, we built a home not grand, not luxurious, but filled with laughter, fights, tears, and countless small joys. Marriage isn't always like the movies. It's messy, it's hard work, it's forgiving the same mistake more than once. But it's also about having someone to share your tea with on rainy evenings, someone who holds your hand when life feels too heavy. Years passed. We had children, little souls who changed my world once again. Their cries, their laughter, their tiny hands in mine, it was like reliving childhood, but this time, through their eyes. I watched them grow, make mistakes, learn, fall, rise. I tried to protect them from the world, but I knew I couldn't shield them forever. All I could do was love them enough so that, when the storms came, they would know where home was. By the time I was in my 40s, I realized something: life is not a straight road, it's a circle. We begin dependent, we grow independent, and then, slowly, we depend again. I worked, I cared for my family, I laughed, I cried. But sometimes, in the quiet of the night, I wondered, what about my dreams, the ones I painted in my diary as a teenager? I wanted to travel, to write, to sing, but life had other plans. And that's okay. Because not every dream has to come true to make life meaningful. I found joy in small things: baking with my children, planting flowers, reading under a warm lamp. I discovered that happiness doesn't always scream, sometimes it whispers. But middle age also brought losses. I lost friends to distance, to misunderstandings, sometimes to death. I lost my parents too. The hands that once held mine were no longer there to guide me. Grief changes you. It teaches you that nothing lasts forever, except the love we leave behind. And now, here I am. An old woman, with silver hair and wrinkled hands that tell more stories than I could ever write. I sit by the window most evenings, watching the sunset. The same sun I watched as a child, chasing butterflies under its golden light. Life has come full circle. I depend on others now, just as I once depended on my parents. But I don't feel weak. I feel grateful. Grateful for every tear that taught me strength. Grateful for every heartbreak that showed me my worth. Grateful for every failure that carved me into who I am. Grateful for every smile, every hug, every "I love you" whispered through the years. If you ask me what life really is, I'll tell you this: life is not about how many years you live, but how much love you give. It's not about reaching the mountaintop, but about dancing on the way up. It's not about never falling, but about always rising. And when the final chapter of my story comes, I won't be afraid. Because I have lived, I have loved, I have lost, and I have learned. And that is enough. So this was my story. The journey of Selena Marlowe from childhood to old age. A journey that may sound like yours, or your mother's, or your grandmother's, because in the end, we are all writing the same book of life, just with different names on the cover. Remember this: childhood is short. Youth is fleeting. Adulthood is demanding. Old age is precious. Live every chapter fully, before the pages turn too quickly. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment and share. More emotional and inspiring stories are coming soon.